Friends, this program is brought to you by the generous support of people like you. Founders Church of Religious Science, Center for Spiritual Living in Los Angeles, is committed to providing you with inspirational messages daily and weekly to enhance your spiritual journey into your best possible life. To become a supporter, please visit our website or click the link on this page to inform you on how to make your gift. We thank you.
Hello, friend. Today I want to share with you some ideas on journey into your best. I have never seen anyone get up in the morning and say, gee, I feel like doing my worst today. I feel like having life really take me apart today. I don't think we do that. There is something in all of us that wants our best. And that is the connection that we have with Spirit. Spirit wants us to be our best, and that's what we want to do. So there is a horizon that is beckoning to us that is out there. And sometimes we will prescribe a very narrow circle to get to that horizon. And it's your choice. It's my choice. That's what we do. But if you are like most of us that feel like, gee, I don't want to be confined to just this little narrow area of life. I want to explore more. I want to learn more. I want to grow more. I want to be more. I want to do more. Then you are probably recognizing that this life is process, and what we are doing is we are becoming. We're in the process of becoming. So I don't speak so much in terms of being perfect. I know it is the practice of some people to affirm the perfection of God in them. And I can do that too. But my perfection today is not necessarily the same as my perfection yesterday. In other words, life is change. And I'm not going to be someone who want to get to a fixed point in my life and say, well, I know how to do these things and I'm really skillful at doing these things. And that's all I do. I want to be in a position where I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm discovering, I'm making mistakes, I'm learning how to bounce back from when things don't work well. These are part of how I can become my best. Can you imagine if your parents, when you're growing up with your parents, and if they never had an experience of how life can be tough, how they would be able to give you advice, to mentor you when you go and say, Mom or Dad, this is what's going on with me, and they've never seen that, never had that. How could I know? So I'm coming back to the notion, the three things that Eve really saw in that fruit of knowledge of good and evil, as Genesis calls it. And she talks about the fact that it was good for food. So we need to know how to sustain ourselves, what it is that's going to sustain us. And this is not just to sustain us physically, also spiritually, psychologically, relationally. That's what the sustenance of food is. She also talked about beauty. The fact that we must see the beauty of life, because that is how God expresses God's self in life. And we must see this beauty even during the time of ugliness, if we're going to be our best. And the final thing, of course, is that she saw it as something to gain wisdom. You can't go through this life without wisdom. So let me share a number of things. I think there are going to be 5 things I want to share about the journey to be your best. And the first thing I want to share is we must commit to optimism and happiness. Commit to optimism and happiness. Can you imagine what your life is going to be like if every day you get up, you feel sad and you feel like it's only going to get worse from now? From this point on, it's going to be downhill. I'm never going to be sweeping up into the heights of life and enjoying myself. It doesn't start with an event. It starts with a thought. It starts with the idea that this is the life I can live. Why? because Spirit wants to express itself more fully through you, and Spirit is optimistic. You ever notice how some plants grow up the crack in a gutter where there's hardly any water? How does it do that? Or maybe you see some of these films where they're showing you how things grow, and they have this time sequence thing that you see this little thing pushing out from the earth. That is you. That's an image of the Spirit in you wanting to express. So, even in the Bible, we find Abraham saying to the Israelites, he says, "This day I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you, that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. Now choose life that you and your children may live." Think about that. This is not just Abraham speaking to the Israelites. This is the Spirit of God speaking through him to all of us. It doesn't matter what tribe he was in. When a truth is spoken, it is the truth for everyone. Ernest Holmes, who founded the Science of Mind, which is part of what I'm involved with, he says, we take truth wherever we find it and we make it our own to the extent that we understand it. And in doing so, we rob no one because truth belongs to everyone. We have this tribal way of thinking that, I'm a Christian or a Jew, or I'm a Islamic or whatever, I'm a Buddhist, and this thing belongs to me. That's not true. That's people who live at the surface of the religion and not in the depth of their spiritual growth and essence. So what I'm inviting you to do is to recognize that you can find truth everywhere and from everyone. And it doesn't matter who, it matters what. William James once said, "Everyone knows that at any given day there are energies slumbering in him which the incitement of that day does not call forth. Compared to what we can be, we're only half awake. The human individual usually lives far within his limits." You can imagine that whatever you're doing, no matter how good and successful you are, you're still far within your limits. Why? Because there is an unlimited potential that is centered in us. And that's what we're calling for. Now, if Lao Tzu is right, he said the journey of 1,000 miles begins with the first step. Again, you can see that he didn't use the word process, but that is what process is. Many of us want to be magical about life. We say a prayer, and here comes the demonstration. We don't have to do anything. God is our heavenly butler. There's no such life. What we need to understand is that the miracle is in the process, and the principles that we learn are to help the processes along. So, if you want to have a change, make the first step. Start where you are. Starting where you are is the only place you can ever start. And you are in the ideal position to make that start. And once you start, you're in the flow. You are in the flow of the process that you want to demonstrate. And that's all that really matters. The demonstration will come because you have engaged the process, and life is going to open doors for those of us who have this belief and engage the process. Churchill says that a pessimist is one who sees the difficulty in every opportunity, and an optimist is one who sees the opportunity in every difficulty. You see what we're dealing with here? It's consciousness. Two people can be looking at the same identical situation, and one person can say, "Oh, terrible it is that whatever is going on is so." And the other person can say, "My goodness, there's an opportunity here for me." And it's the same situation. What is different? Consciousness. And once you get the consciousness of optimism, it doesn't mean that you're getting engaged in fantastic thinking, where you are just being absorbed with wishful thinking, that I wish this could happen, I wish that could happen. The old saying, if wishes were horses, beggars would ride. But wishes are not horses. So what do I mean? I mean you can move into an acceptance that you are more than the situation is showing you right now, and you can make that difference. And there is a principle of law back of you that will help to move you along. What happens when you're optimistic in life? Research shows that you become healthier, you live longer than pessimists do, and you're less prone to illness, fatigue, and depression. Is that worth it? I think it's worth it. I think we should all aim for it. And so let's be like the centurion who comes all the way to Jesus and asks Jesus to heal his servant. And Jesus said to him, "As you have believed, so be it unto you." Now, I know in the Bible it seems like Jesus is doing everything instantaneously. We need to understand that the scripture is there to get us to contemplate how we are ourselves moving in life. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you pray, if the thing doesn't happen instantaneously, that your prayer is not being answered. Because you don't get up one day and by the next day you're 21 or 41 or 51. Nobody looks at doing that. That's not the way life is. We have to work with life, work with the principles of life. It works in process. And you have to understand that if you use the process, you'll get the result. And it doesn't have to happen immediately, but it will happen on time and in time. Now, let's talk about working with your talents. If you want to be happy with your life, you have to work through your talents. People do not realize that the reason we're so bored with our jobs is because we're not doing what gives us joy. What gives you joy is working at the level of your talent. When you are creative, when you feel like you're making a difference, where you feel really turned on with life. And that can happen to you, but what are your talents? You have to know what your talents are and find a way to work through them. It comes back again to that wonderful statement by Luke that says the kingdom of God is within you. It is within you. And my feeling that talents are the way that the kingdom of God is localized in you. So you are here for a specific purpose of expressing your talent. Not a purpose in terms of what you're doing, but how you do it, how you come to life. You bring that talent forward and you make that talent really express itself in and through all the things that you do. In the book, in James, the book of James, he says, which is Jesus' brother, he says, every good and perfect gift comes from above, coming down from the Father of heavenly lights, who does not change like shifting shadows. In other words, you can rely on your spiritual principles. You can rely on them because it's not going to be this today and that tomorrow. It's the same today, tomorrow, and forever. I wonder how many of you remember psychologist David Viscott. He says something that I really like here. He says, the purpose of your life is to discover your gift. The work of your life is to develop it. The meaning of your life is to give it away. So there are three things here. Discover your gift, develop it, give it away. If you really want to feel your sense of purpose, these are the steps that you take. You have to discover your gift. Your gift means your talent. That's what I've been talking about. And then when you discover it, you develop it, and you give it away. So talents are those naturally recurring thoughts and feelings and behavior that occurs for you. And when you are doing something with your talents, it gives you joy. It's the kind of things that you do and you say, if nobody paid me for this, I'd do it anyway. That's your talent. When you do it, it just comes naturally. It comes with some ease. But if you're going to get to where you can do this in a very powerful way, then you have to turn that into strength. And you do that by turning your talents into No, let me say it differently. By using skill and knowledge to make your talent become strength. So what is a strength? A strength is the ability to provide consistent, near perfect performance in a given activity. So this is really what we do when somebody says, well, you're an expert at that. How did you get an expert? You weren't born an expert. You're born with a talent. But then you got an interest. You play the piano. And suddenly you find that you really love this. And so you practice more. You become more skillful. And then you learn more about what it is you're doing. And before you know it, you are a virtuoso. That is really what we're doing in all facets of life. The third thing I want to call your attention to in this journey to be your best is to be mindful of well-being and gratitude. Let me take gratitude first. The first thing that we need to do when we get up in the morning is simply be grateful for our life. You're alive. Yes, there are mornings I get up, I don't feel that good. There are mornings I get up, I say, oh my God, do I have to get up already? But you know what I do? In spite of how I feel, I said, I am thankful for my life. Because I can even be thankful for having something to complain about, but I'm not going to stay there too much. What I'm going to do is come to the joy of being thankful to be alive and knowing that it's going to get better from here. So this is my gratitude. But what is gratitude for? For well-being. And well-being is different from being perfect. Some people want to be perfect all the time. Do you have perfect health? Isn't there something when you go and see your doctor that he says, gee, you're not doing so well here, that you need to make these changes? I think that is true of all of us. So why should we spend our time trying to be perfect and not being happy with ourselves until we are perfect? Most of our lives, we're never going to be perfect. But in a sense, we are really perfectly geared for dealing with life because life is change. Everything changes and ends. That's how life is. And we are also changing. The way I was healthy some years ago is different from how I'm healthy now. The things I could do with that health years ago are different from the things that I'm doing with my health now. But I'm still living. I'm living intensely, and you can too. Not because you can't do some of the things you used to do, it means that, gee, you're over your life. No, it's a different stage, a different phase, and there is a different adventure waiting for you. Stephen Hawkins, he had Lou Gehrig's disease, ALS, and he wasn't able to move any part of his body with any great sense of control. And yet he remained one of the greatest theoretical physicists the world has ever seen. And there was not a day where he spent thinking about how terrible it is that I can't be any different from this. What he had was well-being. He was grateful for the fact that he could do what he's doing because he was alive. And so that's a good starting place to maintain yourself, to realize that there is a joy and happiness. Just to be is a blessing. Just to live is holy, says Rabbi Heschel. And we must have that same attitude as Abraham Heschel had, that just to be is a blessing, just to live is holy. Look at some of the things that happens to us when we have low self-acceptance. We're self-critical. We're confused about our identity. We waste time wishing we were different and we were somewhere else. And what we find is such a person gives us less and settles. Let me say that over. Such a person gives less and settles for less. That's what I want to say. Such a person gives less and settles for less. So self-acceptance means that you have an attitude that despite the challenges of life, despite its shortcoming, you are just the way you need to be in this world to move from where you need to be to journey toward your best. Now, when you see life positively, look at some of these qualities. You see things as changing positively for you. You're moving toward your potential. You're becoming self-responsible and spiritually mature. You are increasing your self-knowledge and you're learning new skills. Doesn't that interest you? It interests me. These are the things that make my life work. And so nobody's asking you to be perfect. It's nice if you can be perfect. What does that mean? It means you have reached a stage where you're no longer growing because there's nowhere to go once you're perfect. What you want to do is to recognize that life is an act of becoming. You're becoming more of what it is that you need to be and more of your potential. Finally, let me deal with growth. We're here to grow, and sometimes we fail. Here's what Bill Gates says about failure. He says, it's fine to celebrate success, but it's more important to heed the lessons of failure. And he says further, life is not fair, get used to it. Failure doesn't mean you're a failure. Failure means that it's part of the experiences of life that will come along while you are moving along new grounds. You're moving into an area you've never been before, so you don't know all the dimensions of it. So you're going to experience some failure, but it's fine because you're learning. It's a learning process. And so instead of feeling put down by failure or being less of yourself because of failure, realize you're learning and you kind of slough that off and you move forward and you know new things. So instead of thinking about that, why don't you sit down and write yourself a kind of scenario, a kind of diary of what your future looks like? How about doing that? In that, you could say how people respond to you at that level in the future. Say how your life has changed and transformed at that level. Say, how do you help others at that level? And say, finally, how you will be grateful to Spirit for all that life means to you. If you did that, you will find that you have something to live toward. You will find that it's the best that you're living toward. And you'll find that in the moment when you keep doing your best, life has no choice but to bring its experience of its best to you. So my friends, it is good for us to think about how we ourselves can live along this journey, which is a process. It's forever changing, and you're changing with it, but that is the whole mission of life, for you to experience these changes to be better than you were before. So I invite you to commit to optimism and happiness, to work your purpose and your talents together, and to be mindful of well-being and gratitude, to commit to growth of consciousness, to keep growing, and to write out your future life as how you are imagining that it can be. If you do this, you will change your life. God bless. Hello, friend. What a wonderful time this is for you to help this ministry, to reach more people, to make a difference in their life, to help us all to be our best. Wouldn't it be wonderful if people really got a message like this and begin to make the changes they should make in their lives? Well, you're part of this by helping us. So I want to thank you for your support, and I want you to look on the screen and see the many different ways in which you can support us. So come on, let's do it, because this is the life we're living together, and we are in this thing together. So thank you very much, and look forward to seeing you in the next talk, which we will bring to you next week. Let us turn within right now and feel the presence of God right where we are. To know that we are coming from a potential that is limitless. That within us is a power and a presence greater than we are that we can use. And as we begin to reflect more deeply on our relationship to it and make a demand upon it, we will find that it's the pleasure of this inner aspect within us, which is really God manifesting in and through us as ourselves, that we will find a greater stream of goodness moving from where we are and out into the universe to make a difference. And the difference we wish to make is to always work from our best. And that best may not be the same as it was yesterday, or will it be necessarily the same thing each time? But from our perspective, it will always be from our best. And so we are committing to that, knowing that we're not doing this alone, that the power within us, the presence within us, is working for us, through us, as itself and as us. And so knowing that this is true, I say, thank you, Father, Mother, God. And together let us affirm, and so it is. Thank you for sharing this time. Peace.